It's Wednesday, July 31st, 2019. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we're going to cover. The Samsung Unpacked event is 1 week away, but they've already started releasing new products, including a new Galaxy Tab S6. We'll let you know some of the features. And after months of anticipation, you will soon be able to have your very own Apple Card, after the company announced it would be released in the first 2 weeks of August. And the Chief Technology Officer for Vizio, Bill Baxter, will join myself and Caleb Dennison to talk about the release of Apple AirPlay 2 and HomeKit for some Vizio televisions. And the Bill Gates-led Breakthrough Energy Ventures has funded a company called Sierra Energy and their revolutionary way to vaporize garbage and turn it into energy. We'll talk about that and a lot more coming up on Digital Trends Live. That is actually a pretty nice shot of Portland, Oregon.
That is glorious, glorious view.
It is. We got it right.
That's
hyped. The one. That is the shot that we've been waiting for right there. It's finally happened. This is show 274. We got it right. No,
I love that you know that number.
I don't know what it was. I just kind of made that up. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. Thank you for tuning in. Wherever you find us, we do appreciate it. We broadcast live every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions all around technology. And we are broadcasting live on a number of different platforms, including LinkedIn Live, Periscope, Twitter, Twitch. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Dailymotion, we're on Apple News, we're on 2 different mobile apps, we're on a smart TV app, and we're at digitaltrends.com/live. So however you find us, drop in your conversation, whatever you want to bring up, make sure you let us know. We will absolutely talk about that as we go through the show. Hello to Brian from New York, who's tuning in. Thank you, Brian. All right, let's introduce the show here, though. I'm Greg Nibbler. To my right, it's Adrian Warner.
It's time.
It's time. It's time for tech.
Wednesday, it's time for Adrian Warner to talk about tech.
It's time for
I just
Adrian
referred to
time.
myself as the third person.
I think that's how you should address yourself from now on
Okay.
on this show.
Done.
Well, Adrian doesn't like this Samsung. All right, let's get down to some business here. Let's talk about some trending topics. We do have this. So coming up a week from today is the Samsung Unpacked event. This is kind of a really anticipated event from them, where we know they're going to be releasing the Galaxy Note 10. But they also have some other items that they're going to be releasing as well. And just in leading up to it, they've announced that they're going to be releasing some things ahead of time. And today is the official release of the Galaxy Tab S6. So this is a new Galaxy Tab from them. We've got a full review that's up at Digital Trends right now because Julian got it ahead of time and was able to review it. But this is the newest version of the Galaxy Tab.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of great updates. It's much thinner than the previous versions. It has a beautiful 10.5-inch screen, and it's also powered by Qualcomm Snapdragon, so it's got a really powerful processor inside.
Yeah, I know Julian was saying kind of bridge that gap between a tablet and an actual laptop.
Yeah.
Because it's powerful enough for that.
He really kind of put forward the fact that you can get a lot of your desktop work done on this device. So it's a really multi-purpose tool. And also, as you can see on the back there, for anybody who's watching the stream live, that there is a magnetic pen on the back, and that's held in by a really powerful magnet. So you get that really awesome duality of it being a tablet, being desktop, being everything that you need in one device.
Yeah, I think that's great. And the fact that it's a very strong magnet is good because I feel like those get lost a lot, or they can come off.
Oh yeah, no, that would be gone instantly without a strong magnet in my bag.
Wouldn't work for us, but if someone like Julian who's responsible, he can handle that. But yeah, it's no headphone jack. That's another key component,
Yeah,
which I'm surprised in something of that size. You would think there'd be room. You could still keep the headphone jack in there.
You would think that they would have thought of that on one of the many sides.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I get it with some of the phones. Well, I mean, like it or not, they're going away on phones. I'm sure most phones going forward, eventually, they're all going to be gone from those. But a laptop or a tablet, I would think, would still be a viable reason to have that, especially if you have high-end headphones, and that's something you're going to watch, probably at least watch some movies on it.
I would assume, yeah, you would use it a lot during travel, during downtime. Actually, I assume that tablets are really just kind of almost like the one that you have in front of you, like a daily device. Like you consume media and you get your work done on it. And this is one of the very few manufacturers still making Android tablets, which is interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still going on with them. I mean, this is the one that they're releasing, so that's what we're taking a look at right now. And again, we have the full review too at Digital Trends. And then they were talking about this, which we got to see. And then they also said that on the 5th, on August 5th, they're going to be releasing a new Galaxy Watch. So we'll get the new watch ahead of time too. Which just looking at the Unpacked event, it makes me wonder what all the Unpacked event is going to be about. Because usually these are the kinds of things that they release during that. They have a big fanfare for it, and they have somebody come out on stage and walk through everything with the Galaxy Watch. I guess they could still do that, but the fact that they're already releasing them and reviews will be out, it seems kind of counterintuitive.
It seems like they're leading up to something much bigger, and they're kind of almost getting all of their product releases, their normal product releases, out of the way to make room for something bigger.
Which makes me anticipate it a little more. I'm sure at some point we'll have Julian on to give us kind of a preview of what he thinks. But yeah, if you've already got this new tab out, you're going to have the watch out ahead of time. We know the Note 10 will be there for Unpacked, but if that's the only product, I can't see it being that, because Unpacked is to have usually a bunch of different things. So what else do they have in store?
We can only prophesize.
I mean, unless they bring the Fold back out, but I don't think the Galaxy Fold is going to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That much.
I can't imagine that they would bring something back that they've already debuted and had to pull back to fix. So I don't know. Maybe they will talk more about it. I'm really curious to see how much is going to try and catch up to Apple with all of their announcements. So it's just going to be an interesting, and also the fact that I didn't realize they had so many events in one year, so many Unpacked events in the same year.
Yeah, there's a lot of events that go on. Samsung usually does at least, I would say, 3 to 4 probably unveils. I mean, they have a lot of different products, so that does make sense. They make a lot of things, but this will we'll see where they go with it. I mean, if they come out with their own, we're gonna have a new TV streaming service, the Samsung TV, or they're gonna have something along those lines. That's not what I would want to see. No more TV streaming services, Samsung.
No more. One thing that I do really like that they announced, which is kind of a smaller feature, but something really exciting still, is that it still keeps the micro SD slot. So
That's
you can
great.
add storage to it if you want, and that I feel like has been going away on a lot of laptops and desktop devices and things like that. So it's really nice to see that still as a feature in this tablet device.
Yeah, that is a good feature, and on phones too. I still like the idea of having a micro SD slot, but I know a lot that's going away on quite a few too. Well, that's what we know so far. So again, we have the full review that you can go take a look at for the Galaxy Tab S6 at digitaltrends.com, leading up to the Unpacked event. All right, it's time for Read 'em and Weep. This is where we take a look at some of the comments that have come through across our many platforms. We address them directly to you right now. We will respond. The Adrian is here.
The Adrian will respond to them.
The Adrian bot will respond, and she will let you know what she thinks of your comments. So again, you can comment as always while we're live, but these are ones that came through before. All right, Juvie regarding Capital One data breach affects 100 million people. Here's the latest. Just checked, and I still have a high balance. If anyone wants to wipe that off me, I'll leave my password the same. Thanks. Wow, that's a very bold statement. Feel like you're challenging the internet. That's not always a good idea, but nonetheless, I appreciate the gumption there.
Yeah, absolutely, the gumption and the the forwardness of please just take over my bank account.
Hey, internet, try me. Yeah.
Try me. It's the challenge. I always appreciate a good challenge.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, that's just putting it right out there. There is this Capital One thing.
It is such an interesting story.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be such a huge fallout from this.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, with just the Equifax one where people are still realizing how big of a breach that was, this is going to take another year, I bet, before we really understand everything that's gone on with this Capital One breach. I mean, I think it's way bigger than people are realizing. 100 million accounts, all the way up to possible Social Security numbers in some of it, and then 6 million Canadians too. I think the Canadians are going to get
Not
really
the Canadians.
I know, the Canadians.
No.
What'd Canada do? But there's just going to be a lot more coming.
Yeah, a lot of fallout.
A lot of fallout could be coming from that. So that's anyways.
Thank you, Juvie. We'll try to hack into your account for you.
You put it out there. I'm sure somebody is Googling you right now to attempt that, to try to get into those accounts. All right. Oh, wait. A live comment had not received my I'm only here for Read 'em and Weep shirt. We'll now pull out a Sharpie on one of my old white tees. George, this was a great idea that George came up with. This was being run up the ranks here at Digital Trends. I thought we had approval on it. We'll have to go back.
I think we have a prototype.
There was a prototype that was made. There actually was. So, and George, you'll get credit for that idea, and we're going to see if we can get that happen.
Yeah.
Got to pass it through committee, but I think we'll get it through.
I think we need more merch. Definitely.
We need more merch.
More
yes.
merch.
More merch. This has been something that we need here at Digital Trends Live, and thank you for leading the way on that, George.
All right, Mission Sparta regarding the new Sony. Oh man, every time this happens to me every time. WF-1000XM3 versus Apple AirPods. Sony tramples the AirPods. Not surprised. WTF? Even waste time making a review like this, like doing a comparison of a Ferrari to a Kia.
Wow.
I mean, hot take, but I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah, really. Have you used the AirPods?
No. Why?
I agree. I mean, I don't like the look of them myself.
I'm not going to walk around with golf tees in my ears.
So everybody who wears AirPods here in the office, Adrian, just let you know what she thinks of you for that.
I have the XM2s, and they are mind-blowing. They're
Really?
fabulous. I use them every single day. I also have a lot of ear piercings, so like anything that I have to shove into my ear canal is like just a fight. A battle.
You gotta fight through the earrings to get it there. Well, that's, I mean, I agree. I'm a fan of the Sony ones. I've tried them. I have not actually, I don't own them, but I've tried them. Although, you have to remember, for like a review like this, there's a lot of people, we're underestimating here how many people have AirPods and how many people love them. So I think the review is still fair.
Still fair. It's just kind of it's like apples to oranges.
I think you're on
though.
Mission Sparta's side.
I'm on Mission Sparta's side.
You know?
Well, it's also like one is in ear, like a pod, and the other is over ear.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they're both
the,
in ear.
Is the WF? Yeah, that's the in ear. But
yeah.
Sony, I'm Team Sony.
All right. Well, Mission Sparta, you have a
fan.
a compatriot here in Adrian. All right. Thank you for that comment. That was on YouTube. Leon, regarding Sony is crowdfunding a personal air conditioner built into your clothes. This has gotten so much traction. Make a product out of plastic to deal with rising temperatures, which will eventually end up as landfill. Anyone else see the irony here? All right, Leon, you're clearly not someone who sweats a lot, because if you were, you would understand this is a pretty important development, probably the biggest piece of tech that's ever been developed that we're talking about right here.
Leon might be one of those, people that uses natural deodorant, doesn't really care.
Leon. Yeah, I mean,
I agree. It is the irony.
It's completely wasteful, but it's still, I would try it out.
But good God, if you're in a humid city in the summertime, I hate summer.
Yeah.
I hate summer so much.
Adrian's just revealing everything here on the show today. So yeah, she hates summer, by the way, and she hates AirPods.
I never said hate, just not my preference.
Just looks down upon you.
Just looks down upon them.
Well, Leon, yeah, I understand your sentiment on that, but nonetheless, I still want to try this out. I have to try it out.
I want to try it and review it.
Sony, if you would like to please send in a couple of those, we will absolutely test those out live on the air. I think the battery lasts 90 minutes. That's how long Digital Trends Live is. I'll wear it the entire time.
Awesome. It is quite cold in here, though. Do you need it in this room?
Colder. Make it colder
Great.
still. I'd be fine if we were in a freezer right now. That works for me. All right, Zolt. Regarding
Stelkovics.
Wow. Regarding this $3,000 e-bike is allegedly impossible to steal. We stole it in 60 seconds. I'd challenge if it's okay to put stuff like this on the internet before consulting with the company.
Wow.
Okay,
All right.
I see that comment, and I've heard that
We
actually
acknowledge
before.
that comment.
And I want to say right now, Adam Kaslikowski, the author and editor of that particular article and this whole thing about that bike, is going to be on the show in about an hour.
So you can ask him your questions.
You can. Zolt, you are absolutely free to drop in your comments and questions as we go through that segment. And we'll talk to Adam about that, and he'll talk about what his experience was with it. I'm sure he's going to be backing that up. But hop back on.
Oh, yeah.
Hop back on, and we can talk to him directly, and we can address that.
Thank you, Zolt Stelkovics.
Zolt Stelkovics. There's some kind of anagram. I can't figure it out. There's something in there.
There's a fun anagram in there.
Yeah, there's something in there.
I love making anagrams out of people's names. It's fun.
Now, that one would be a challenge.
All right, Pete Gutenberg, the 16-year-old winner, takes home $3 million from Fortnite World Cup. This is a pretty crazy story. One winner and 39 million losers.
999,999. It is true. For that Fortnite competition, 40 million people tried to get into that, and that one kid won it.
One kid won.
One kid won it. 16-year-old won $3.5 million.
$3.5 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder what I've been doing with my life.
Should have played more video games, clearly. Clearly. That's what it should have been. Well, we've got all of that. You can follow up on all those articles at digitaltrends.com, everything that we just posted there. And of course, you can comment anytime. That's why we like Read 'em and Weep. We talk to you directly. It's what we do here at Digital Trends because this is an interactive show. You're part of it as well. So whatever you comment, we do read. Sometimes we even respond live on the air. All right.
True.
Let's get back to talking about some news, some trending headlines.
Yeah, some news topics of the day. One really big trending headline that we're talking about right now is the Apple Card. This Apple Card has been talked about a lot over the last couple of months, and Apple has been slowly releasing details about what it entails. But what we know right now is that it is going to be released to the public and available to the public in August. So you can sign up through your iPhone for the Apple Card, and it still confirms all the details that we have heard before. The card doesn't have a number on it, and it's secretly locked away in your iPhone. It's kind of a really big privacy play for Apple.
Yeah.
And it'll be really interesting to see how many people will sign on for this Apple Card. I think it's going to be extremely popular, especially for how much Apple Pay has been embraced by basically the world all over.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be huge. Right now, this is according to Apple, that U.S. Retail acceptance of Apple Pay is almost 70% in the U.S., even higher in other countries. In Australia, apparently, it's 99%. So it's
crazy.
Huge there. And so, yeah, if it gets, I mean, at 70% right now, that's a large majority of the U.S., and if that's just going to keep on increasing. I mean, I think with the number of people who are very much in that Apple ecosystem.
That's right.
And once you're in that system, there are people that are very devoted to it. I think this Apple Card is going to be huge. I don't know how many are going to get the actual physical card because I think you can get one.
Yes, you can. I don't know if it automatically comes with it, but it's interesting, the reward system for paying. They really incentivize you to pay through your phone, through Apple Pay, versus using the physical card through their cashback system. So you get an unlimited daily cash, and if you use your Apple Pay, you get 2%, and if you use just the card, you get 1%.
Okay. So there's definitely an incentive then to use the Apple Pay side of it. And some of those things that they were talking about to help out with the cards and to help out with interest, they said the interest is going to be 13 to 24%, which sounds like
pretty
it's
average,
about standard, on a credit card. But they did say there's going to be no late fees, no annual fees, no international fees, or over limit fees. You will have to pay extra interest on what you don't pay. So I want to see how that's going to work out. Because you do have to keep up with your payment, but what are they going to start doing when people start missing their payments? I'm assuming standard credit card stuff.
But people, I wonder, is there a limit on the card? That's what I'm very curious about. Because, if you just don't pay, you're just going to get more and more interest accrued until you hit your limit.
Right. And
then they will come after you.
And then Apple will show up at your door. So I'll be curious to see how that works. They also said they're going to have programs in there to help you understand your interests because they want people to be more financially responsible and to help them out so they don't go over their limit. So it'll explain, here's where your interest is now, here's how much you're going to pay. If you make this much payment, it'll go down. So at least a little bit more upfront. The one thing that would be cool is if this does go through and people start utilizing this and like that feature of just somebody being more upfront, that other credit card companies start doing the same thing.
Yes.
Just being like, hey, you're going to be paying this much to us if you don't do it, which obviously I think we all know that's not really what credit cards want to tell you. I mean, they want to make money off the interest.
They want to make money. Yeah.
Shocking secret.
They're really, really putting it forward as something that's extremely visible with all of your payments.
Yeah.
And one of the really cool features that I want to talk about is the machine learning and Apple Maps combination, so that it basically identifies the companies that you're spending money with and translates them to more easily identifiable names. So when you pay for something and it's like Intelligence Corp took $689 out of your bank, it'll actually identify what that company's name is, like the storefront name, and then mark it on the map so that you remember where it is and what it was.
That's cool.
Which is very cool.
That is frustrating when you're in going through your bank statement and you're like, I don't know exactly what that was. Intelligence Corp. Now I want to know if that's a real company or not.
My company.
Owned by Adrian. So you're giving yourself plugs here now. But that's the Apple Card.
We have no location.
And except Apple Payment. But the Apple Card, so that's going to be out within the next 2 weeks. They said the first 2 weeks of August.
I mean,
that'll
August
be available.
is literally tomorrow.
It's
so,
tomorrow, yeah.
soon.
So it could be any time that that'll show up. And you can find out more about it at Digital Trends. Let us know what you think about that, if you like this concept of the Apple Card. And if you start using it, please write in and let us know if you like using it or not, what the actual user experience is. That's what I want to know once it actually rolls around.
Would you convert to Apple just for a credit card?
No.
Yeah.
Nope. Not myself.
I think it'll just really appeal to people who are already existing Apple
Yeah.
users. I'm not sure if it'll convert new users, but it will be interesting to, see how widely it's embraced overall.
Yeah, once they roll out everything with the television streaming service and all these other things that they're rolling out, and maybe if there's some combined way, I still don't see myself buying an iPhone just for that, though. For any of those purposes. But you never know. It may work for them. All right, a couple other quick stories that we want to get to, some trending topics. This one actually comes from an initiative from a senator, Josh Hawley of Missouri, who has put forth something he's calling the Social Media Addiction Reduction Technology Act.
AKA the SMART Act.
SMART Act on Tuesday. And it is essentially what he wants to curb is social media addiction. And the senator wants to ban autoplay video, infinite scroll, and other features that go along with that he claims would actually contribute to internet addiction.
This is being put forward. It's interesting to see such a wide, approach to this, because a lot of companies are already starting to try and tackle this. Instagram and Facebook already have, you can monitor your time in the app and put caps on yourself, which is something.
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, and that's something that the SMART Act would actually mandate social media companies to do.
Okay.
Yeah, there would be some exceptions to the rules that you mentioned earlier as well. Exceptions for autoplay on music streaming apps. I'm very curious to see how far this would actually get in Congress. I really just don't think that.
I don't think it would make it very far at all.
Make it very far, and I also don't think that it would be very easy to enforce. However, it would enable the government to penalize companies that do this and make money off of the lawsuits from them.
Right. I don't see this going. I do see, there's definitely been more initiatives lately, or at least awareness around internet addiction as an actual thing, and social media addiction in particular, and video game addiction. So I think that this could be a symptom of some things going forward, but we'll have to see where it actually goes. I'm realizing we're running out of time. I want to get to one more.
Yes, one more about Netflix. So something that was announced today is that Netflix is spending a lot of money on high-budget movies, which is kind of a new move for them. So they're investing over $520 million, which is crazy, on 3 high-budget movies. An action movie with Dwayne Johnson, this one that we're showing right now, Martin Scorsese, The Irishman, and then another one that
There's a Michael Bay.
Michael Bay one, yes. That's why I forgot it.
Yep. Adrian's a big fan of Michael Bay. That's on 3 movies. $520 million on 3 movies. And the Red Notice is like an action one with The Rock and Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot. And then you've got 6 Underground, which is the Michael Bay one with also Ryan Reynolds. And then The Irishman, which is like at 170 some million or 200 million. I think there's different estimates on exactly what it is. That's a lot of money on 3 movies.
That is a lot of money on 3
subscriptions
movies.
That would be required just to pay for those.
That's true, and that's what they're trying to do here. Is they're trying to keep up viewership and keep their subscriptions in place, because that's exactly what fuels their money stream. Television series account for about 2/3, and apparently movie streaming accounts for 1/3 of their viewership. So they're really trying to tackle that 1/3 and keep them locked in place with these
them in there.
Really high-profile movies.
Well, how do you feel about that? Is that enough to keep you subscribed to Netflix? We have the television streaming wars, which is a legitimate thing that's happening right now. You have Disney Plus on the way. You have HBO. I can't remember what they call it. HBO Plus, I think, is actually something along those lines. The new HBO, which is going to be all of that DirecTV stuff and AT&T and everything that's going on with that. So there's a lot of new streaming services coming out. is this going to be enough for you to stay with Netflix? And I did see that Netflix's budget right now for monthly content is $1.4 billion. $1.4 billion per month is what they're spending on new content. I mean, they have me with The Irishman. I will watch that.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, that's right up my alley. So you've got my money on that.
Got
Netflix.
2 fans, Netflix.
Yeah, you got 2 of them right here. But that's what we're looking at. So a lot to discuss with that. We'll be talking about the television streaming wars, of course, for a long time as this all
Maybe forever.
unfurls. Maybe forever. All right, I know we need to get to a break. We have lots coming up here on the show, though. Today, we have the CTO of Vizio is going to be joining us to talk about Apple AirPlay 2 being on Vizio televisions. Caleb Dennison will be in here as well. We've got Drew Prindle, who's going to be coming by to talk about CRISPR-based treatments for blindness. Lots to talk about, but first off, thank you, Adrian Mortar.
Thank you. You can tell the gentleman from Vizio that I have a television of his, and I love it.
I will make sure that is the first thing that we say to them. All right, so that's coming up. But right now, we're going to take a quick break, and then we have the CEO of Kazoo, Paul Pellman, who's going to be on the show, and talking about their platform to help companies create rewarding and purpose-filled workplaces for the employees. I think everybody can agree that's a good thing. So let's take a quick break. We'll have Paul back on the show. Drop in your comments, your questions, whatever you want to bring up, and we'll be back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. Hit that subscribe button and join us in these conversations that we get to have as we go through the show. It's so much fun doing this live and having this interactive content with you, and that's part of the fun here. And as we talk about technology, we know it's changing so many things about our lives, including the workplace, and in workplaces need to adapt to that, and there's a lot of things that we can do to help encourage employees to enjoy their workspace. I think we all want to enjoy going to work, and that's an important aspect of life. And right now, we have certainly an expert who's going to be joining us. We have Paul Pellman, who is the CEO of Kazoo, joining us here to talk about just that and so much more. Hello, Paul. Thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Great to be here, Greg.
So to give everybody a little bit of the backstory, we always like to do this at the beginning of an interview. Can you talk to us about some of your history in this workspace and then give everyone kind of an overview of what Kazoo does?
Sure. So I came into Kazoo about a year ago. Before that, I was with Google and ran a company that Google acquired. And I think that actually gave me great context and experience and excitement about what we offer here at Kazoo, because when you work in a startup, you have to create a rewarding and purpose-filled workplace. Just because you're trying to be better than companies that are typically much larger than you, and you can only be successful by just out-executing and out-competing against those bigger, larger companies. And being at Google, I was able to see for a company of Google's size how well and how much focus they put on creating a rewarding employee experience. And I've been able to bring both those capabilities to the work we're doing here at Kazoo.
Wow, I mean, that's certainly working for somebody like Google. I mean, that would give you that full viewpoint of what a giant company does. And I've always heard that they do put a lot of effort into that for the employees. And so So taking that experience, being there at Kazoo, what are some of the initiatives that Kazoo is launching, and how do they help companies achieve that kind of employee satisfaction?
Right. So most traditional HR technology solutions are focused more on the compliance side. So things around um, payroll benefits, compliance. We're really focused on the next wave or a new wave of HR technology that really focuses on helping companies improve, like I said, that employee experience. We do that by focusing on three specific capabilities. The first is around a robust recognition and rewards platform. So a peer-to-peer social recognition rewards platform that makes it easy for everyone in the company, individually and in groups, to recognize their colleagues for great work that they're doing, to create alignment against company goals, and make sure everyone's feeling appreciated for the good work that they're doing. The second component of what we offer is a continuous performance management solution. The word continuous is really important. Folks today are really looking for ongoing help and assistance and guidance to help them build a career within their company and feel motivated about what they're doing. And so we create a platform that does that around goals, check-ins, and feedback to create that ongoing dialogue. And then the third leg of the stool of our solution is focused on engagement or survey engagement capabilities. So pre-built and custom surveys that allow a company to really understand that voice of the employee, so they can focus on issues and improve things that are important for the company to do to be more successful. And we bring all three of those together. And when you bring all those three solutions together, we get a richness of data and insights we can provide back to our customers that really help them understand and improve performance overall. And some of the benefits of that, when companies really focus on the employee experience, because this really can tangibly help a company perform better, is when everyone's rowing in the same direction and it's more aligned, they work harder, they work more effectively, and when they're inspired around what they do, they're able to essentially, be more motivated and happier where they work, and so therefore they stay longer. It's easier to hire the best and brightest talent to come into the organization, and again, you're able to keep the better employees, keep your employees. They don't go somewhere else, and that can have very tangible impacts to the bottom line.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing, actually, just those kinds of concepts of it, and it's kind of interesting that it hasn't been applied before in a lot of ways. I've certainly seen it even here, at Digital Trends. We work on all three of those things behind the scenes, and I think it's definitely something that's important for employees to feel that empowered, feel that you're being acknowledged, for the work that you're doing. And then helping the bottom line. You said that you're able to grab a lot of data and insights to provide back to the company. Can you talk a little bit about that side?
Sure. So, when you have a recognition program, and one of the values of the recognition program that we've seen with customers, and as we use the platform ourselves within our own company, is just the volume and the richness of content that you get from that, the volume of recognition. And so one simple thing I like to tell prospective customers or existing customers is, you may think you know who your best employees are. We can actually tell you who your best employees are through the recognition they're getting through our platform. And so I think this is a fallacy that you hear a lot of times around, one example I like to talk about is around the concept of annual reviews. Most companies still focus on annual or maybe semi-annual reviews. And especially with the millennial generation, if you're just doing that, you might as well call that annual review an exit interview, because that's not what this generation and the employees today are looking for. They're looking for a more ongoing process where they have a much better feel day to day how they're performing and what they need to do to build and create a satisfying career. And when you think about the data around recognition and bringing that data into a performance management solution, again, you just have a richness of data that helps make sure that managers are adequately and accurately recognizing the right employees for performance. When you tend to wait and only do it once or twice a year, you many times get it wrong.
Yeah, that would make sense. And like you said, just for the kind of work environment that we're in right now, and even just with all of the technology that's involved, we're a much more quicker paced, need to understand where we're at right now. And I would imagine that helps even with employees for innovation, for performance, for all kinds of things. If you're happy, if you're engaged, if you're inspired, you're going to be able to help out that bottom line ultimately. And also, like you said, keep those employees around. That's a great way to look at it. There's a lot to cover with that. For companies, let's ask this just to find out, for companies who want to get involved, like, is this kind of platform, this kind of management solution for a larger company? I mean, clearly you worked for Google, not all companies are going to be that big, but working for what size of companies would you say this is good to start instituting, or should it start from the beginning?
Right. So we, one thing that's great about this space and why I'm excited to be in this space is, first of all, it's really cool to work at a company where you can help other companies create great cultures and create rewarding workplaces for their employees. And the second thing that's great about that is just about every company needs something like that. So we tend to focus on customers and across all shapes and sizes. We have over 600 customers, and they range from companies as small as 100 to 150 employees up to some of the biggest companies in the country and around the world, and across a variety of industries. So it's one aspect, like I said, that's really important is and interesting from my standpoint is really everyone needs something like this.
Well, Paul, where's the best place for people to go to find out more information and for companies to look into you?
KazooHR.com is our web address. You can find out all the information you need there, and we'd be happy to talk to anyone.
All right, well, thanks so much for talking to us here for Digital Trends Live. What a great discussion and just really informative and fantastic talking to you about this. Thanks for being here on Digital Trends
Absolutely.
Live.
Thanks. Happy to be here, Greg. Thanks.
All right, so very interesting, learning some more information about that, how employees engage, and probably all of us are sitting there thinking like, oh yeah, that actually does help out a lot. So interesting discussions that we get to have on this show. We're gonna have another interesting one coming up because Drew Prindle is back here on Digital Trends Live, and we're gonna talk about an article that's up on Digital Trends right now about using CRISPR gene editing to help people who are blind. I'm going to let him explain a little bit better, but we've got that coming up. We've got Caleb Dennison and the CTO from Vizio who's going to join us after that. So lots to talk about. Stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Drop in your comments, your questions, whatever you want to bring up as we go through the show. We're on a number of different platforms, and that means we can take those. And I'm going to guess we may have some questions about what we're going to be talking about next. I'm Greg Nibbler, joined now by Drew Prindle.
It's a tongue twister.
It was a tongue twister. I was trying to get to the CRISPR gene edit. I started saying that. I'm like, CRISPR-based gene editing. I want you to explain this. Drew, can you walk us through what we're going to talk about right now?
Yeah. So there was a pretty big milestone that we reached earlier this week. The first human trials or clinical trials of a CRISPR-based gene editing technology.
You're having trouble with it too.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to explain. There's a lot of technical stuff going on. But basically, we're testing CRISPR gene editing in humans for the first time in the U.S., or one of the first times.
Can we walk through just a real basic definition of what CRISPR is?
So CRISPR is, in the most basic terms, it's like copy and paste for genetic sequences.
Yeah.
So we've had gene editing technology before, but this method is drastically easier than what we've had in the past. It's far more effective, and because of those two things, it just has so much more promise. So yeah.
Yeah. So seeing where that so just the idea that we can manipulate genes of people. And now you said we've worked on it before. We've been doing it with probably plants and
there was
some
also
animal experiments.
There was a human trial. They were working to cure a specific kind of cancer, but the difference between that trial and this one that's happening right now is that one was using CRISPR outside of the human body. They would basically take a cancer cell extract it out, work their CRISPR magic with it, edit the DNA inside of it, and then reintroduce it into the person's body, and then it would kind of go from there.
Wow.
But this trial that they're doing is completely different. They're actually injecting a CRISPR treatment directly into human bodies.
So they create this CRISPR treatment based off of that person's DNA.
Yeah, so this particular one, it's designed to help a specific form of inherited blindness. It's called labor congenital amaurosis. That was LCA.
Another thing I was looking at, and I was going to pronounce that. I am not going to attempt that. So
yeah, so it's an inherited form of blindness. If both of your parents have the gene and then you get it, basically what happens is your retinal cells, like your rods and cones, don't develop properly. So you kind of just don't. You're not able to see properly from like the offset, pretty much.
I mean, and saying that disease affects 1 out of roughly 80,000 people,
Yes.
which isn't a small amount. That's quite a lot of people.
It's one of the more common forms of inherited blindness.
So they're doing these trials right now. Can you talk about just what those trials are, like where that's at, who's going through this?
Yeah, so it's actually, I think it might still be open. You can still like voluntarily enroll in it, which is another big step.
That's
Before
great.
They were like finding specific cases, but they kind of put out an open call for this one.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not sure if they've filled those spots or not, but.
I mean, I love this idea. I don't see why anyone would have an issue with something like this if it's going to cure something along those lines.
It's experimental. This is it's like it's unproven. We don't know if it's going to work, but if it does work,
and that's the thing. Yeah, if it does work, think about what else this could be applied to, and if this helps people to be able to see, I mean, that's huge. That's huge. That to reverse something like this.
Well, yeah, that's the exciting thing is like we're kind of going in this trial and then injecting these very finely tuned sequences of DNA and then kind of telling the body to repair itself. So you might not be able to see just fine, but with this treatment, the idea is that it'll tell your rods and cones, like it'll change the way like proteins interact and kind of tell them to rebuild themselves. So over time, these people that might be affected by this could theoretically begin to regain the ability to see.
I mean, and if that's, applicable here, if you could actually do that here, and show that you could regrow something like that, or however that would actually work, to bring that eyesight back. I mean, that could be applied to other aspects.
Absolutely. This is it's going to fling the doors wide open. There's so much promise behind this, and if these work, it's going to be extremely exciting for the future of medicine.
So with this trial that we have going right now, are there any other trials on the horizon that we know of, or is it kind of a wait and see how this one goes and then slowly get into it? Because I know there's a lot of obstacles and people do have some ethical and moral issues that come down to it, beyond the scientific issues.
Yeah, in terms of human trials, I'm not aware of too many more that are going on, like actively.
At least sanctioned.
Yeah, because there's a long process for these things to get approved. This one that they're doing right now was approved back in December by the FDA. So, it takes there's a lot of red tape to go through because obviously they don't want people just like injecting weird CRISPR treatments and fiddling with their own DNA and then that causing problems.
Right.
There's a ton of oversight. So I think this is, like I said, it's one of the first. So I think maybe of like 2 or 3 human trials that are happening right now in the U.S. But there are other ones happening around the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I know there's some in China as well that were maybe unsanctioned.
not so sanctioned.
Not so sanctioned. But yeah, I think this is a great combination of technology and science, and just if you can help people out, that's the bottom line. I mean, I think it's fantastic. Although hopefully it all goes right because it is a trial. So that is important. But I don't think they'd be to this point if they thought it was going to.
The other thing that's kind of a bummer is we're not really going to know whether or not it worked for a while.
It takes time. It's not like an instant shot. And
because first they've got to do the.
Yeah.
They've got to try it, and then they've got to wait for all these cells to regrow, and kind of it's going to be a very prolonged process. But maybe in a year we'll know. Yeah,
I'm seeing some comments come through, both pro and saying that there's a lot that can go wrong. We don't really know what we're changing, and there's some aspect to that too. But I'm sure it's a clinical trial, so if they've gotten to this point, there's just a lot to discuss with it. And actually, if you want to discuss this more, coming up tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Pacific is our live roundtable podcast, Trends with Benefits, where we will be discussing exactly this. We'll go more in depth on CRISPR and gene editing and what it is, like how it all got started, what's happening now, and then what the potential future is, good and bad. So we'll go further in depth with that. Well, Drew, thank you for bringing this to everybody's attention. And this article's up at Digital Trends. It's fascinating stuff. I find this really interesting. And whatever side you're on, it's something to talk about and have a discussion on. So again, join us tomorrow for Trends with Benefits, our live roundtable podcast. And stick around right now, though, because coming up next, we have Mr. Caleb Dennison, who's going to be in here in studio with us. And joining us, we will also have Bill Baxter, the CTO for Vizio, and some big breaking news coming from them today about the Apple AirPlay 2, the HomeKit, being added into some of the televisions. We're going to walk through all of it, and we can take your questions, your comments as we go through, so definitely join us. We'll be back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. We are back with Digital Trends Live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Hit that subscribe button to make sure you get the notifications when we go live, and that way you can also join in the conversation. And if you do have comments or questions, you can always drop those in on whatever platform you are watching on. And we are going to talk about some new tech right now. I'm Greg Nibbler, joined here by Caleb Dennison.
Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Caleb. Let's talk about televisions.
Let's talk about television.
And we have a guest who's going to be joining us to do just that. We're talking about Vizio, and in particular, some of the new announcements that they have coming out about their SmartCast 3.0, what it consists of, what all is involved with that. There's a lot to break down with it, and we have a perfect person to join us to talk about that. We have Bill Baxter, the CTO from Vizio, joining us right now. Hello, Bill.
Hello, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for being here with us. Want to talk about this. Caleb, I want you to lead it off. You are our expert here. How should we begin this conversation?
Self-proclaimed expert, right?
Self-proclaimed expert. Nonetheless, that's all that matters, right? It's the internet.
Right. No. I mean, the thing is, TVs are getting smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter.
Yeah.
Every year, there's new iterations. But I would have to argue that this is one of the big breakout years. Notably because Apple is getting involved. Apple has been very absent from the smart TV scene, unless you count the Apple TV box. But that's not a smart TV. A smart TV has all that stuff built right in, all the apps that you want to use, maybe Chromecast, that sort of thing. And what's notable in the smart TV space, and the reason that we're speaking with Vizio today, is the fact that Vizio just released its SmartCast 3.0 operating system. And what's cool about Vizio, I don't think a lot of people realize this, and actually maybe our guest should explain this, but Vizio has built SmartCast on top of the Android TV platform, but it is their own system. And they have complete control over when they update it, right? So like you guys just threw out SmartCast 3.0 just recently, didn't you?
Yeah, we're just now rolling out SmartCast 3.0, but I did want to correct one thing. We did build our operating system from the ground up based on certain Google technologies, including we built in Chromecast, and now recently we're just launching our AirPlay with HomeKit integration.
Right, and that's the big news for today, is that AirPlay 2 and HomeKit are now going out to a bunch of Vizio TVs. Unlike other manufacturers, which maybe their 2018, 2019 TVs are going to get some kind of an update. Vizio, I believe, is rolling that way back further in the timeline. Is that true?
Yeah, well, what we strive to do is continue to deliver added value to our customers after they buy the products. And so with respect to our AirPlay and HomeKit rollouts, we're rolling those back to TVs that we sold back in 2016.
Which is incredible. I mean, there's a lot of those Vizio TVs out there, going back, 3 years old, that are getting this brand new technology. So can you explain to us a little bit about what you can do when you have AirPlay 2 and HomeKit built into the TV like this?
Well, it's really super cool. I can explain it. I'm a user of iPhone and Apple products, so I use this feature set every day. With our AirPlay integration and as well as the HomeKit component of it, you can do very simple things with your voice, like you can ask Siri to play a specific title back on a specific TV in your home. You can do all the command and control stuff you could do with, say, Google Assistant or Alexa, but now you can integrate it into the iPhone home application and create scenes. And you can say things like, hey, Siri, watch TV or whatever. Set your lights, it'll turn on your TV and do all that really interesting and fun smart home integration, which, for Apple users was just a little bit out of touch, except through Alexa and Google Assistant.
So for our viewers who own Vizio TVs, I think they might be wondering how they go about getting this update. Is it one of those things where they got to dive deep into the menu and find update and click a button, or how does that work?
In order to get the firmware, it'll happen automatically on your TV overnight, presumably when your TV's off and you're tucked away in bed, and you'll wake up one morning and you'll find that you have all this new added functionality.
That's fantastic. So yeah, I mean having the HomeKit part, I think is part. I think that's my favorite bit, which is, as we just heard, tying in those scenes and having the whole smart home kind of rally around it.
Right.
So if it works with Apple HomeKit, it's going to be accessible and involved. Use your HomePod, if you want to. Use your phone. Use your iPad. It's pretty exciting. So. can you tell us a little bit about what else is coming with SmartCast 3.0? I mean, obviously, AirPlay 2 and HomeKit are the big headliners, but there's more than just that, correct?
Yeah, there's a lot more coming. We have a renewed user interface. It's a lot easier to use. A lot more content is available to you as you navigate around SmartCast 3.0. We're making performance improvements to make it snappier and quicker to get into the content you want. We've rolled out a streaming service called Watch Free, which is a live linear OTT service that has over 150 channels now. We're rolling in channels from, say, MTV, for example, and so we're bringing in new content constantly into the product. We've made enhancements to our Google Assistant integrations, so you can have even more command and control. And with Alexa, coming here very shortly, you'll be able to search for content from Alexa and launch apps without even lifting a finger. So we're continuing this area that we pioneered back in 2016, where we wanted to look towards new modes of interaction with your TV, including your mobile device. And with the AirPlay 2, we add Siri, but also from your lock screen on your iPhone, you have a D-pad that you can access the TV, so you don't have to actually go hunt down your IR remote anymore. It'll just be right there on your phone.
If I'm counting correctly, Bill, that's support for all three of the biggest voice assistants with Vizio televisions. Is that right? Google Assistant. Yeah, Google Assistant, Alexa, Siri. I mean, so It really doesn't matter who you like, who you prefer. You've got access to that through a Vizio television.
Well, yeah, that's part of our mission. Is we want to make sure that whatever ecosystem you live in personally, that when you bring a Vizio TV into your home, it'll work nicely with it.
So I personally have been eagerly anticipating pretty much all of Vizio's 2019 lineup because, at CES, Bill, I believe you were there actually, we got a sort of a first look at the new TV lineup. And what we're seeing is some really heavy-duty technologies that used to only be in the flagship series kind of trickling down all the way to like some of the most affordable models are getting technologies that used to be once reserved for only the very best Vizio TVs. And then there's the whole audio lineup on top of that. I actually have a couple of favorites. The Vizio P-Series Quantum X is easily one of the best TVs out this year.
You've talked about that here before.
Yeah, I've talked about it here before, and I've also got a full review up on YouTube and at digitaltrends.com. One of the sleeper hits, though, I think one of the biggest products, should be one of the biggest products for Vizio this year, Bill, I think you might agree here, is one of the new Vizio 2.1 sound bars. It should be hitting stores very soon, Bill, but the one I'm talking about is the one with the super slim subwoofer that you can pretty much just tuck into your couch.
Yeah, we launched a super slim subwoofer a couple of years back, and it was quite popular, so we're bringing it back this year, and on a very affordable 2.1 soundbar. So now you can tuck that subwoofer away if you don't have any other place for it, right underneath your couch. It's the SB 3621 that customers will be able to get.
Yeah, and our viewers actually just got a look at that. Vizio's got everything from very basic, single bar, 2-channel solutions, all the way up to the most elaborate soundbar-based surround sound setups. But that one with that slim sub, I think it solves a lot of problems for people, and I'm really glad to see that coming back because there are good places and better places for subs in a room just for sound quality perspective, but when you have the opportunity to just fully hide that thing and nobody ever sees it, to me that brings some of the magic, of the cinema where you're not looking at speakers, you're just enjoying the huge sound quality that's coming for it. So I would encourage people who are shopping for a Vizio TV to also look for those Vizio audio products. They're not just a convenient tack on that it's the same brand. Like they work exceptionally well together, and it's high quality sounding stuff. Bill, what would you say is the most exciting TV innovation coming from Vizio right now, outside of SmartCast 3.0, which we already discussed?
Yeah. Well, the most exciting thing from a picture quality standpoint has to be the fact that we've moved Quantum Dot, Vizio Quantum Color down to the M series, as you had mentioned. Quantum Dot had been relegated to high-end Samsung TVs for many years, and Vizio began rolling out Quantum Dot last year in our flagship P series Quantum. And then this year, we've rolled it down to the P series as well as the M series. So you can waltz into a Walmart and buy a Quantum Dot TV that has the highest color contrast of just about any TV on the market for an incredibly affordable price.
Yeah, I mean, this is this is a really fun era. It also makes my job extremely difficult.
Right.
When you get that kind of performance and value, at such an approachable price like you do with the Vizio M series, which has always been, I think, the bread and butter of the market, which is highly approachable pricing. Like Bill, you just said, you walk into a Walmart, or a Costco, and the TV is it's right there. I mean, you can literally pick it up and put it in your cart and walk out the door. You don't have to have, you don't have to go through a much more elaborate buying experience at a maybe dedicated electronics store or something like that. Then you get this TV home. Quantum Dot really does open up a whole new world of viewing for people, because you get not just an expanded color gamut. I mean, you're literally seeing colors on a TV that you've never seen on a TV before, but you're also getting HDR contrast in that color, as well as the brightness and the darks, which is fantastic. That leads me to my last point. Bill, I think one of the aces in Vizio's cap is its varying HDR support. There's a lot of different formats out there. Can you talk a little bit about how Vizio approaches doing HDR and giving its customers the most options?
Well, yeah, I mean, we are big advocates of HDR. We've supported Dolby Vision for years. It's an incredible format, HDR format, that gives users really, really high contrast scenes. When you combine that with our backlight technology, full array, local dimming backlighting technologies, all of a sudden you start to see cinematic scenes on a TV that you would only have seen in the theater before. And again, we push that all the way down in our product line to the lowest end of our products. And so now you can access those technologies. We also support HDR10. And so for those.
Looks like we had a little bit of a tech issue there, just with the connection. But if we can get Bill back, we will. But if not, I mean, I think we learned a lot just about what's going on. Oh, I think Bill is still there.
Bill's back.
Bill, if you wanted to finish your thoughts on that.
So I don't know where I got cut off, but I was just saying, we pushed HDR10 and Dolby Vision down to our value series, B series. And so it's all across the product line there. And it really does bring a cinematic experience to your home, to your living room.
Well, I love that this is rolling out to all of these televisions now. People will start seeing this update going all the way back to 2016 and seeing that technology also with the quantum, filtering down to these other televisions, these other sides of it, and getting to take advantage of all that technology. It's really, really cool.
I don't want to forget to say we also brought in HLG for broadcast TV as well. So now you have HDR coming from broadcast TV as well as streaming services.
Wow, it's a ton of stuff.
Coming from every different direction.
Right.
And I mean, with Apple AirPlay 2 built in now, you've got the easiest access to Apple's library of movies in Dolby Vision. And it's just so simple. Like you start playing the movie, the TV goes into Dolby Vision mode, and you're instantly getting like picture quality that you've never seen before. Unless, of course, you've been enjoying Dolby Vision for the last year and a half or two. But I think just getting the content in front of people so that they can enjoy it without having to jump through a bunch of hoops is a really smart play.
Well, it's really great, too, just to be able to talk about this here on the show. And Bill, I want to say thanks for joining us to discuss this. And we've got more information at digitaltrends.com that you can take a look at and discuss exactly what this new rollout is. And Bill, thanks for being here on Digital Trends Live.
All right, thank you guys.
All right, and Caleb, thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
talk about
happy to be here.
televisions, lots to cover. I know we need to get to a break. We've got some more news for you that we're going to be covering. We've got some more interviews coming up. We've got Adam Kasakowski who's going to be joining us to talk about that bike. The bike. We're going to be discussing that. I know we had a comment about that earlier, so lots of things to talk about. Drop in your comments and questions back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. And welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Again, thanks for joining us. It's so much fun to have these conversations with you and talk about trending tech news, and we learn about things as we go through the show. We've got a great interview coming up with Michelle Romano here in just a few minutes. Before we get to that, I wanted to talk about a couple of other trending stories that are going on right now, and one of them is a little bit strange. Well, maybe they're both kind of strange, but these are trending topics that are happening. And the first one has to do with Facebook. No, it's not talking about a $5 billion fine. It's not talking about something with Instagram. This is something in their department where they work on their future technology, part of their overall goal of increasing your interactivity on social media. And it is Facebook. I'll just read this headline. Facebook's brain-computer interface could let you type with your mind. Okay. So that's kind of gives us the opening point here of where we're at. So this is the company's plan, and this is actually something they've talked about that they were working on before. Now, they're not the only company working on human brain interfaces. You have Elon Musk's Neuralink, and I'm sure lots of companies have programs based around this. Facebook's, though, is kind of interesting in the fact that they just published this update on their work in Nature on Tuesday. So this is a very recent update that they had. I want to walk through some of the things that they're doing. So they have a team of engineers that have been able to develop so-called speech decoders, capable of understanding what a person wants to say through analysis of their brain signals. And they've actually run some specific tests on this, and they've actually been able to do it. They were successful in it, in that they were able, not entirely, you're not going to be able to have a whole conversation with this, but they were able to, through their testing, have people discern and different words, or give them, say, a multiple choice. And when they decided on what multiple choice answer they wanted, through these brainwaves, through the constant testing they've been able to do, they were able to determine what that person was trying to think about and what word they were trying to form. That's pretty incredible. That sounds like it's straight out of a science fiction movie, but this is their report. This is their scientific research data showing that they were able to do it. Now, we're a long ways away before this actually gets instituted to where you're thinking your thoughts to Facebook, but it shows that the research is ongoing and we're starting down this line of work. And if it gets there, we could be getting to that point. And that's certainly something going forward that you're going to see a lot of companies working on. And I know it sounds strange, but it really is true. You were talking about some of the other applications of it. You even had Andrew Bosworth, who's the Facebook vice president of AR and VR, talking about adding that in as a non-invasive wearable device that lets people type just by imagining what they want to say, like taking a look towards the future of how that could work. If you have some AR glasses and you can think what's going on, or go into a VR world and just think the thoughts that show up. I mean, it's really out there technology, but this is something that's happening. So that's a report that's going on. It's trending right now. Wanted to bring you up to date on that. All right, one other trending story that we're going to talk about before we bring in our guest. This is something from Bill Gates' led initiative, and kind of, they're at least backing it. That's kind of where the news comes from on it. And so Bill Gates has this fund called the Breakthrough Energy Ventures. And it's not just Bill Gates involved, Jeff Bezos is involved, and Richard Branson's involved, so a lot of billionaires kind of backing this, but it's talking about different future technology that can help us right now. And this is something that is going toward a company called Sierra Energy. So Sierra Energy is a startup. They've been doing this for a while, but they just raised a $33 million Series A investment. So startup may not be the right word. They've been around for a while, but this particular technology that I'm going to talk about is something they're really trying to push through. It's called FastOx. FastOx is the name of the technology. And what it does is it's a new way of getting rid of garbage, just to really hit waste management. And what they've been able to figure out is through chemical reactions, they're able to actually melt down this garbage, this waste, and create energy out of it, energy out of the gas that's coming from it. They're not the first ones to try this. There's incinerators that are out there, but incinerators also release some carbon monoxide as well, where they release different gases into the atmosphere that are not good. So they're certainly not a pure way to do it. This, they're saying, is a much more pure way to do it, and they're using chemical analysis in order to do so. So what they do is they bring the temperature of the waste up to 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, as they say, twice the temperature of the core of a volcano. But they're using specific science to do it. They're injecting it with oxygen. So pure oxygen is what's helping to do this. And that chemical reaction actually breaks it down and turns it into a harnessable gas that then they can use and reapply it to all kinds of other fuels. They said you can make anything from jet fuels to plastics out of it. So a lot of actual things that you can do with that refuse that's coming out of that. Pretty amazing if this actually works. This is a pretty amazing way to handle waste. So we'll have to see where it goes from there. But with Bill Gates' fund backing it to this certain extent, we'll have to see what happens with it. But that, obviously there's some potential there. So maybe we'll have to go into that a little bit more. But talking about renewable energies is certainly something that we have to discuss here in this world. And environmental cleanup, maybe this is a way that we can actually move forward. And it's always nice to see technology helping out with that. So again, that's the Sierra Energy Fast Aux breakthrough that they have going on right now. All right, continuing on here with Digital Trends Live. Let's keep this going. We've got lots to talk about, and I love the fact that we're interactive. We have everybody joining us right now. Wherever you're watching, you can drop in your comments, your questions, and join the show. And really excited about our next guest. If you're a fan of Dragon's Den, you know who we have on here right now. But beside that, she does a lot more. So she's also the co-founder and president of ClearBank. We have Michelle Romano joining us right now. Hello.
Hi, great to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Really excited to have you here on Digital Trends Live. And, I want to walk through and discuss, in particular, what we want to talk about, which is venture capital and how companies can get it and how they can get their hands on it. And maybe if you could give us just a little bit of a background for everybody watching about ClearBank and about what this initiative is that you have.
Yeah, so great question. So every entrepreneur is looking at how to raise capital, and it is certainly like a difficult and convoluted process. That's why there are shows like Dragon's Den and Shark Tank, where entrepreneurs are looking to come on. And so my experience, I've been a serial entrepreneur for the last 10 years. I saw how hard it was to raise capital. And the other thing that was crazy is today, more than half of venture capital goes into companies, and it goes into directly funding Facebook or Google ads, which is crazy to me because that means that founders are using the most expensive capital, which is equity. I mean, once you give up a part of your company, you never get it back. They're using the most expensive capital to do something that by definition should be repeatable and scalable. The nice part of these digital ad platforms is if you inject $1, you always know you get $3 out. And so me and my co-founder, Andrew, started ClearBank almost 4 years ago now. Our mission was to make it easier for founders to fundraise and get access to affordable growth capital. And, we're getting to announce that we've raised another $300 million. This year, we'll invest $1 billion into 2,000 different companies. And instead of doing it as an equity investment, we do it as a rev share. So if we give a company $100,000, it takes them 20 minutes to apply and figure out, how much capital they qualify for. And if we give them $100,000, they pay us, 5% of their revenue until they pay us back $106,000. After they've paid us back that $106,000, we don't own a piece of the company. They don't owe us anything more. And so we're trying to invent the best way for founders to fundraise.
I mean, that's incredible. Just that's all they end up paying back, 5%, and then an extra $6,000 on top of it. I mean, that's amazing. Launching this, you mentioned how many different companies that you're working with. How do companies come to you, or have you seeked out any companies that you see and you're like, okay, I want to help this one in particular?
So we do both. We get a ton of inbounds. Venture capitalists send us leads. Advertisers send us leads, but we also go outbound and look for great companies to be funding. And so it's kind of a combination of both of those two things.
So you talked about companies in particular investing that much into Facebook ads and Google ads. What do you think a startup company or company who's getting some actual venture capital, some actual capital comes in, what would be the most important things to prioritize for them to invest in?
Yeah, so I think it's about how you look at capital. Like if you are doing something that has a really short payback cycle, like, Facebook or Google ads, if you invest today, you should get paid back in a couple of months from now. You shouldn't be using equity to do that. If you are trying to build a crazy piece of AI or solve a disease or expand into a new country, that's where you should be using equity like venture capital dollars for. Because the problem is VC is just very, very expensive. It takes you 3 to 6 months to do a fundraising round. I've done it. It's hundreds of meetings. It's 95 no's. You take your full time, you take your eyes off the business. And so we're just giving founders an easier way to fundraise.
What's some of the response been so far from companies that have been working with you on this?
It's a really good question. I think we're really shaking up the space, and we've had an amazing response of inbound so far. The other thing is that, we don't have the traditional venture capital model where, it's a human that is investing in another human. And that model really scales in a very limited way. We use data science and machine learning to make all of our investment decisions. And that has made an enormous difference. And so, the two stats I think are really cool is that we have funded 8 times more women than the venture capital industry average. And that's not because we changed anything on the funnel. That's just because we took the bias out of investing decisions. And then the second thing is that we've backed founders from all over the country. So, there's a great Bloomberg article you can read. It shows that 80% of venture capital dollars last year went into companies in 4 states in America. That's crazy to me. So,
wow.
Massachusetts, New York, California, Texas, there were 9 states in America last year that had 0 companies that got any VC funding. And so when you look at the Clearbank model, we have backed companies in 43 different states so far, which I think is, really encouraging that we can, make and democratize access to capital in different places. This doesn't need to be, elite capital where you had to have come from the right school with the right background and known the right people. We can make this available to anyone as long as you have, great data and your business is doing well.
That's great. 4 states, that is just a ridiculous statistic. That's
I know 80% of VC dollars go to 4 states. Isn't that wild?
Wow. Well, yeah, this is why it's so important what you're doing, too, to increase that access, like you said, democratize the access so that these innovators, these people with these companies, these great ideas can get access to that, because you can't grow past a certain point without this. And so it's such an important aspect that you're doing with that. Are there any are there any of the companies in particular that you've worked with over this last time that you want to highlight, like one that stands out that you remember really well?
Oh, there's been so many great ones. There's, La Tote, we've backed Lisa Sleep and Nectar, Buffy Public Goods is a new customer of ours. So lots of great e-commerce companies you've heard about. And also as a part of this round, we've announced that we have a whole series of venture partners, which are advisors, that can help our companies grow. These are folks like, Gary Vaynerchuk, Ryan Hoover that started Product Hunt, Jack Abrams that was the founder of Hims. And so we're also building that network for our founders as well. So it's not just, access to a better capital product, it's access to some of the expertise that you need to grow.
So it's working on both sides of that and helping both. Well, for companies out there, that want to get involved, you talked about it briefly about the application process is pretty simple, it sounds like, or at least slimmed down. Can we walk through just a little bit more of the specifics about what that is?
Of course, yeah. So go to clearbank.com, Clearbank with a C at the end. And what you need to do is provide us with access to your digital data sources. So these are things like your payment processor data, your ad spend data. And so we can take an automated look at how your business is doing. We can then show you how much capital we can offer you and the terms of that capital. And we've gotten companies funded as much as $10 million in 48 hours. So we can move really, really quickly compared to what conventional fundraising is.
So it's just that easy to get in there and start applying and being a part of this. Well, I'm sure you've helped so many companies. It's got to feel great, seeing this expand and seeing all these different companies get involved. I got to ask, how do you find time to do that? Number one, I'm sure you've got a great team with you, but how do you find time? And then what's on the horizon for you personally?
Yeah, I think that, especially after joining Dragons Den and being on the show for 5 years, you can really see that the biggest barrier for most entrepreneurs to grow is not knowledge or education or inspiration. It is truly access to capital. And if we didn't solve this access to capital problem, it would be very, very difficult for a ton of small businesses to keep going. And so, I'm just incredibly focused on this mission. We are now doing this in Canada and the US. We are testing international countries this year. We are testing new product verticals, so moving out of e-commerce and allowing our funding model to apply to different types of businesses. What's immediately next is I need a vacation at the end of August and then coming back in the fall to figure out how to keep expanding this.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us here on Digital Trends Live. Really appreciate it, and it's been great having you here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Michelle Romano, right here on Digital Trends Live. How awesome is that? So talking about what they're doing with Clearbank, getting access to venture capital is so huge for businesses to grow and just to develop and see more competition. In 33 states, 4 states get 80%. That's crazy. That is a crazy statistic. So they've expanded to 33 states just in that, and of course Canada and going international. So lots to follow up with that. But we have more to talk about. We need to take a break because we're going to come back with Adam Kosakowski, our automotive editor here at Digital Trends. He's going to bring us up to date on several different things in the world of automotive tech, but also talk about that allegedly unstealable bike. and what happened with that. I know there's a little bit of controversy going on. We're going to discuss that, all that and more right here on Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. You are watching it, and I appreciate that. So hit that subscribe button wherever you're finding us. So if you're watching live, that way you get the notification when we do come up here, and we can have these conversations as we go through the show. That's what's so much fun about this. And we're going to have some fun now because we're going to learn about what's going on in the world of automotive technology and automotive in general. I'm Greg Nibbler. Joining us, it is Adam Kaslikowski. Hello, Adam.
Hey, everybody.
As usual, we'll find out about the car behind you in a minute when we get done with this conversation, but we have a lot to get through here. And to start off, I want to talk about how I'm jealous that you were at this Corvette event, but can you walk us through what's going on with this new Corvette?
Sure. First of all, they gave us free in and out, so that was fantastic.
Oh, so just rubbing it in.
So I was at the debut of the brand new 2020 Corvette. This is the first time the Corvette has ever gone mid-engined, so this is a really, really big deal.
Yeah, and this is, I know you made a comparison, or there was a comparison made in the article about just what a huge deal this is. What in particular were your first impressions talking about this?
I think it's definitely more beautiful in person than it is in pictures, and I think the pictures are actually pretty good, but in person it's got a really, really nice presence. I think it looks fairly similar to the NSX, which makes sense. They're both mid-engined, and they both have kind of a blunt nose because of that. And that's no complaint. I think it's a really good-looking car. And, yeah, in the flesh, it's got a lot of really nice sharp angles that do and do not fade into like the shadows when you want them to. It's a good-looking piece of metal.
Why was it they went with this mid-engine?
So something they kind of secretly dropped in there is that they've known they needed to go mid-engine for a long time. That means 20-something years, they've known this was coming, and they've been testing the waters. Now, what do I mean by, like, they've needed to? Well, that is to keep their performance specs going with all their competitors in the market. They knew that staying at a front engine, they were just always going to lose in turn-in, in G, even some, really that's like a handling issue going mid-engine. So they've known they needed to do this for some time, and now they finally did it.
Do you think it's going to be the same going forward with new models, or will it just stick with this one in particular?
Yeah, so a couple things there is, one, it'll definitely stay mid-engined, for the long time, but there's currently rumors swimming around that they're going to start a whole Corvette brand. So you could maybe see a Corvette four-door, a Corvette wagon, a Corvette a front-engine Grand Tourer. So that's a rumor that's kind of going around right now. We'll see what happens with that.
Wow, that would be really interesting if they went with that a Corvette sedan. Something like that.
It's not impossible in today's car market to start a brand around that, but we've heard this rumor for years, so we'll see.
Well, we've got that, and there's a full write-up at Digital Trends. You can take a look at that, lots of images to go through, and if you want to find out more information. Let's go on to this next one. And now this one, I know we have a couple of things to talk about with it, but in particular, I want you to walk us through from start to finish here about this e-bike that you tested, and in particular, what's unique about that.
Sure. So this is the VanMoof S2 e-bike, right? And a big part of their marketing push is that their bike is incredibly hard to steal, and if it is stolen, they'll completely take care of it. So this is, sometimes called the Tesla of e-bikes. This is a $3,000 e-bike, and in their FAQ section, they have a whole blurb that says, this bike is so difficult to steal that not only would you be messing with it for so long that the police would arrive, but even if the police didn't arrive in those 5 minutes, then you would have to actually destroy the frame of the bike to disable the anti-theft features. Now, we teamed up with a security researcher, and we were able to take this bike apart in 60 seconds using about $12 worth of tools.
So you took it, in 60 seconds, you were able to take apart all of this. Now, I know there was a response from the company, and want to know if I could just ask you your response for this. So I think they wrote on Twitter, they referenced that the stealth alarm system may not have been engaged during this specific test. How do you respond to that, or what was going on with that?
Sure, no problem. So basically, the first time we ran this test, first time we wanted to see whether it would work, and we were just kind of experimenting with it, we didn't have video cameras rolling, right? Now, after you remove the SIM, the alarm no longer works, ever, which in our case, we're saying, well, the alarm never worked in the first place because it's so easy to steal. But regardless, once you remove the SIM, that alarm's not going to work. So for this example video that we shot, no, they're totally correct. The alarm wasn't armed, but only because we'd already done it and shown that we can do it so fast.
Wow, that's certainly a huge thing right there. And we've got that fully at Digital Trends. On the bike itself, any other thoughts that you want to add in, or just direct people to the article?
Sure. I would say, I have no animus towards the company. I think it's a really beautiful bike. I think it's really well made. And a policy that they have that is totally unaffected by our experiment is they say, if your bike does get stolen and we can't find it in 2 weeks, they'll give you a replacement bike. And I think that's super admirable. I just think they're probably going to have to use that a lot more once people realize how easy they are to steal.
Well, you can read more about that, digitaltrends.com. Take a look, and you can read up all on this bike. That is a $3,000 bike, so that's an expensive investment, but it does look like it's a beautiful bike. So we've got that. Let's talk about one more thing, and I think there's probably no segment we can get away from talking about electric vehicles, because that is such a push in the industry. And we've got a great article up at digitaltrends.com, though, right now, talking about electric vehicles in particular.
Yeah, so basically the whole point here is you can expect car design to change a lot now that EVs are spreading throughout the industry. And honestly, the next 12 months are going to be super interesting for me because everyone's coming out with their electric cars. So what an electric car makes possible is you don't have a huge engine up front taking up all that room. That means the cabin can get larger and go forward. The wheels can go to the very edges, which means better handling. So you're already seeing these kind of cab forward cars. Like even the Prius was so cab forward, even though it still has an engine. Like car design is going to change radically. And the changes I'm talking about right here are just the tip of the iceberg. With electric, almost anything is possible now.
Yeah, and we're taking a look at some of the images. So this is a whole article that's up at Digital Trends. And yeah, just referencing that, we're seeing so much change in it, and I'm excited to see that. Why do you think it's taken a little bit long for companies to start adapting to this, or is it just to stand out from the competition? Or, like that one right there, that's just a crazy look right there. I don't know if I like that or not, but seeing all these different adaptions. Go ahead.
I had a conversation the other night with one of Audi's senior designers, and he seemed downright frustrated that so many electric cars coming out right now look like normal cars. He said, as a designer, you always want a blank sheet to go off of. And this is probably the first time in 2-3 generations that designers have had the opportunity to do a complete blank sheet design, and everyone's still just designing a normal looking car. My rebuttal to him is, well, yes, that's true, but also people need to buy these things. And if they look bizarre, like that last one you just showed, maybe nobody buys them, and so what's the point? So it is this push and pull.
So it's like training the marketplace to be open to these other kinds of designs and open to electric vehicles at the same time. So yeah, maybe it's our fault. It's consumers' fault that we're not seeing more of these.
At this point, the gloves are off. People can design whatever they want for electric cars. So maybe someone will do something that's a little more ambitious.
Well, you can read more about that at Digital Trends too, and take a look at that whole article. It's really interesting and fascinating about ways that the design's going to change on this and everything else we discussed. But now we have to talk about what's behind you.
All right. So this is a 1993 Range Rover Classic. And why it's important, why it's behind me today is this is really the first SUV to do luxury and off-roading at once. So this is the granddaddy of all the SUV craze that we see today.
Dude, I love those Range Rovers. Like they're awesome. Well, so that's the 1993 Range Rover. Every time Adam is on, there's something else behind him there, some kind of car that we get to see live in person, because that is what we do here at Digital Trends Live. And check out all of Adam's articles there at Digital Trends. Stay up to date with everything going on in automotive and e-bikes and anything else right there on the website.
Where we want to go, we're writing about it.
Adam will write about it. Well, Adam, thanks so much once again. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Adam Koskowski right here on Digital Trends Live. And we have covered a lot of ground today, as we always do on this show. Just to recap a little bit, going way back to the beginning of the show, we had Adrian Warner in here joining us, talking about some of the breaking news coming out. We talked about the Apple Card that you're going to be able to get your hands on, and Samsung starting that lead up to Samsung Unpacked. Probably see a lot of Samsung news over the next few days. Discuss that. We had Paul Pellman, the CEO of Kazoo, talking about how we need to make workplaces that are fun and engaging and rewarding for employees. So interesting platforms that they have. We had Drew Prindle talking about those CRISPR-based treatment for blindness, a particular study that's going on in the U.S. right now. And again, I want to remind you, Trends with Benefits, our roundtable podcast, is live tomorrow, Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. We'll be discussing more of that. We have Bill Baxter, the CTO for Vizio, talking about their new rollout of that SmartCast 3.0 with Caleb Dennison in here. Lots to cover on that. You can follow up at digitaltrends.com. Michelle Romano from Clearbank, co-founder and president, and also a dragon on Dragon's Den on the CBC, which is really cool. So she was on here discussing their platform, and then Adam right here at the end of the show. Every day we're live. Every day we have new content. Every day we have new interviews, and that's why you want to stay on top of when this show goes live, which is 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. So you can watch us whether you're at work, whether you're at home. We have ways for you to watch us on all kinds of platforms, and that's what we want, because it's fun doing the show, and it's fun doing it with you. This is an interactive show. You're as much a part of it as we are, and that's what we really enjoy. So that is it for today. We're going to sign off, but we'll be back tomorrow with more Digital Trends Live.